Hello. Um, in this video, I want you to address the notions of the design of human nature and the design of human interpretations of sovereignty when it comes to just the basic genetic and basic um, uh, natural flow of makeup that exists within our society. And specifically when it comes to the feminine and the masculine's energy thereof. And so I will address the feminine portion of it, and I'll address the masculine to draw light on kind of the separation of the energy or the fixation of the energy that we experience, and then post that kind of comment on unification of both energies and possibly reinterpretation of our understanding as the status quo of what it means for us to be human, whether a male or a female. And so to begin with, from the female standpoint, by the nature of our design, through the fact that we are childbearers and through the fact that we have a natural womb space that goes through the cyclical natures of awakening and purging and reinterpreting itself over and over, we come by default connected with the energy of the sacred feminine. By default, through the notions of us being us, we carry the primordial tone of connection, of creation, and that the constant knowledge that we as a being, as a feminine being, belong to something greater. So it's a it's a it's a feeling that connects to the feminine aspect of us by the mere nature that we are able to create life, right, and produce life, carry it, and then nurture it. But it also connects us to the greater knowledge of the female creative force. And so in the way it grounds us, and in a way it allows us to interpret ourselves from the standpoint of something greater, of something larger, and it gives us comfort. But at the same time, it carries energies um, of a cumulative pain body that we function as female gender as a whole. And so our goal in life then generally comes to be of having this massive amount of energy, massive amount of knowledge that exists within us, uh, being connected to the whole point of creation, but at the same time, drawing so much awareness to the presence of that notion, uh, then that we are then able to interpret and see ourselves as a creative force uh, at the same time realizing that the pain body that we carry, we acknowledge, is naturally there. And to clarify what I mean by pain body is through through our general upbringing, right, or general functionality of human 101. We are meant to experience pain. We're meant to experience pain of childbirth, pain of our lunar cycles. And through that, we assimilate the idea, um, quite unnecessarily, that our life consists of pain, right? And then, therefore, the pitfall of that idea, the pitfall of that notion is that we then allow ourselves to really sink into our pain body and kind of get lost in it, right? Not from the standpoint of good and bad. I'm not weighing out the scales, but I'm laying out that it's very easy for us to step back away from the general knowledge of the whole and kind of take this spiral into this one aspects of us, which is our pain body, cumulative pain body, um, really of whole earth and possibly even the greater planes. And so that is kind of the pitfall that we would fall into as a feminine energy, But at the same time, the goal behind it, and I guess I will, while I'm on the subject of feminine energy, I will address the goal. The goal behind it is to step back and realize your divine existence without the pain body that you have attached to it, right? Without the notions that when you come into this world, you will experience certain amount of, X number of pains, right? And we're kind of we kind of very easily fall into the adaptation of that being our truth, right? And so as we function through life, um, then we look through the lens of life through that pain body, as opposed to, I'm not saying it does not exist. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be processed. But what I'm saying is, as opposed to stepping back from that lens and putting on the lens of, I'm a feminine creative force, right? And I look at my life through the lens of the greater divine, uh, the feminine energy of creation, the feminine energy of love and nurture. Um, it- because that is indeed our energy, but it's also the energy of the whole, galactic whole, and then most definitely the whole that exists within our Earth system. So that's kind of the gist of the feminine. Um, you know, take it or leave it, but that is where we stand right now, or really have stood there as a whole. And now, so the other aspect of it that I wanted to address that is extremely important, and I think maybe even kind of the largest pitfall of where we stand right now as a culture, global culture, is the masculine energy, and what has basically happened to it, that led us to interpretations of its own pain body, right? And so, from the masculine standpoint, a male, right, in his natural form, post the initial birthing process, through the womb space of his mother, naturally, um, especially through the toddler years, goes through this initiation of separation from the force of the feminine, right? Through the natural male hormones or testosterone, that arises in the body, the male, with each step of his life, separates himself, itself, further and further away from the idea of the feminine creation or the creation of the whole, right? I say feminine creation, but again, creation just has this feminine energy to it. And the male, by the default of being a male, through his genetic makeup, um, very easily falls away and separates from the ideas of feminine, from the even ideas of energies, of the ideas of nourishment and nurture, right? And through that natural process of life, of living in, Earth 2020, wait, 2023, um, you, um, the male body, the male form, starts to lose touch with the greater forces of the universe, right? And hence, an example of that would be, this is why we see so many women healers. I'm not talking about physician healers. I'm talking about the natural energy healers than we would see males, right? Is because most of the time, the male, through just the general progression of societal norms, separates himself from the status quo feminine, and then loses that connection to the womb space that in fact exists as a creative force of energy within him. Not obviously from the literal standpoint, but from the metaphorical energetic standpoint. And so the goal of the masculine, right, uh, or real more so, is the optimal position of the masculine is to realize the true connection that they possess to the energy of the greater creation, to the greater energy of the whole, be it a feminine body more so than the masculine, and start to marry themselves in and bring themselves more into the subtleties of the creation energies that we as a society might perceive as a feminine traits. And so those individuals that practice practices where you work with subtle energies, where you are in either forms of meditation, forms of yoga practices, um, especially, or actually even some forms of martial arts, right? They connect you to the energies of the whole, which are in fact feminine energies, right? And the feminine energies on the creative force, right, actually carry the balance of feminine and masculine within, right? So the male naturally fits into that um, that group of belonging, even though the physical form, right, or let's be honest, the logical mind has separated itself from the feminine, and then kind of through the patriarchal system, wanders lost in the world. Let's be honest, seeking something, and so if you're a male, or if you're a woman listening to this, this is probably a very important step to realize is as a whole, it is almost indescribable for us as women to know what it would be like to be separated from the energy of source and the energy of creation, and then they dive into the world of not feeling its existence into the physical three-dimensional space, because it sends you on a huge spiral of loss, the need for control, the need for securing your position in this world, right? Whether it's through careers or domination, or or political systems, or you name it, as a force that as a has a place of belonging, right? And that's so the patriarchal system, right? It has been driven by the energy of the masculine body, the male body, um, not feeling that sense of connection, not feeling that sense of love, not because they were raised wrong, not because it had anything to do with actually their maternal upbringing. That, of course, depending on how that went, that adds on a whole other the set of issues. But in general, that separation from the feminine, or perceived separation from the feminine, based on societal norms, basically has them wandering lost, right? And so through that there exists almost this subconscious search to belong, subconscious search to feel loved, subconscious search to know your place in the world, and so that is its own journey, that exists both from the feminine and the masculine standpoint, but the masculine just tends to struggle with it so much more, because they're so far away from the natural space, of their wound type of existence. And so from their standpoint, the recommendation is, or how you would approach it is allow the male masculine system, right, to recognize the oneness of themselves with the greater forces of creation, right? To realize themselves or recognize themselves as one with the natural forces of life, right? As bringers of life, as fulfillers of life. And in fact, through that lens, then they will see this peaceful surrender to the fact that they belong, right? To the fact that they are one with the system as a whole. And then not that this is necessarily a goal, but as a side effect, it will stop the chase. It will stop the seeking, the pain body that males experience on the separation of themselves from the perceived loving forces of the world, right? Or creative forces or nurturing forces, whatever you want to call it, right? And so the not to draw on the negatives of a patriarchal system, but the patriarchy has been driven by a huge collective male pain body, less so than the feminine pain body, because with with female, with our cyclical nature of living, we're able to balance those forces, and recognize our divine creative force within as we work with our lunar cyclical nature of our cycles, and of course childbirth being in there, and the male almost does not have this balancing force to bring them back into the creative feminine energy of love, and connection, and only basically functions in the lost feeling of the male pain body. And so if of course, I'm not saying that we need to raise feminine boys. That is not, what the message here is. But we do need to allow our boys, our men, to enter into the subtle energies of their being, right, and start to recognize that current, that energy flowing within them, right. And so males, it is a hard step to take to first one recognize that you feel separated and lost, and disconnected from the nurturing existence of the world, right. Most men probably would never reach that. Um, actually they do reach that, actually on the so correction there, they do reach that subconsciously, right. Subconsciously they're on that search, they're on that vigorous need for something that they don't realize what it is. And so then in your conscious mind, you can acknowledge what is it that you're chasing subconsciously, right? Not the career, not the control, not anything really, than the sense of this nurturing love, and belonging that you feel so separated from. And so within your recognition that this is indeed where your pain body lies, then you can start to come around and center in, go within, and start to realize I have this natural force within me already, right? I already possess that creative force within me, but through the societal norms, or really the best that I could have done thus far, I've been externally chasing something without realizing, and replacing it with all these other things that I thought would satisfy the need, right? And so that's kind of the collective energy that we have, is the feminine pain body, uh, being there, but at the same time, um, at least having some hope of connection back, right, and kind of loop back into the natural forces of us, as a creator, right, and then the male pain body possibly getting more lost in the ideas of separation, right. And so the goal is not to reject the pain body. In fact, it is to integrate the pain body into your system, and then acknowledge what is it that you feel within you, and then center in and realize that you can stay with the pain body. You can offer it love and nurture, while you simply recognize the existence of you, as a being of love, a natural being of creation. So I hope that that is helpful. Mm, you know, I'm sure this will raise a lot of questions and implications and concerns from the three-dimensional standpoint of physical interpretations, but that is not how this message is meant to be interpreted. So thank you for listening, and good luck in integrating.